What's up guys, Blade Master here. Going to be giving you a quick overview of 4 new maps available to the people who've bought the Last Roman DLC. The Last Roman DLC does come with 2 DLC factions, one of which is pretty nice, the Ostrogothic Kingdom, which I think looks like a pretty nice faction, fun faction to play with. Not worth spending $15 though, but that's just my opinion. This is the first map. It's the African coast. We're playing north-south. It looks like a pretty terrible map, to be quite honest. It's unnecessarily downsloped in the favor of the attacker when you're playing north-south. Take a look at this. This is a pretty decent downhill advantage that I can get. And if we're going to take a look at it from east-west, we again have the same problem. But just to be sure, I'm going to check it out east-west and bring that to you guys in a couple seconds. Right, east-west is a lot more balanced, it looks like. The player who starts off on the west side actually has a slight advantage with the forest, and you have a very slight downhill advantage with your troops when you're attacking as the east player. So actually this makes for a pretty nice very balanced, but a slight different twist from the usual planes, and in general it just looks like a better map. So that's you know what, I'm okay with. Should I be okay with this sort of downhill advantage? It's not really the most balanced map, but it's super plain, and I guess that's what they think multiplayer players like. Anyways, that's east-west. So far, this map is 5 on 10. You guys stay tuned for the rest of the 3. Right, we are in the map of Gaul. This is the second map that I'm previewing or showing to you guys. Horrible map. It looks beautiful. I have to admit, it looks very nice. I love the setting. It just suits the darkened mood of Attila. But that's about it. Very thoroughly ultra hugely imbalanced. One, if you're playing north-south, the attacker in the north gets all the forest advantage that he needs, and he gets to, well, actually, you know what, it's kind of an overstatement saying that this is completely imbalanced. Sure, one player gets to start completely off in the woods for no reason, but after that, if you're going to meet up in the center of the battle, it looks mainly pretty balanced. Yeah, there's a little patch of woods here that can impede shock cavalry charges, a little bit of woods here, which is whatever, and yeah, for the most part this is pretty balanced, except that when you're playing north-south, the one player gets an unfair forest advantage, and it can lead to some shitty players just completely camping in the forest. You guys stay tuned for the east-west review. Right, here we are in Gaul east-west. Immediately this makes for a much better map. Gotta say, each player has his own forest. You start off with one side of your forest here, your opponent starts off with his forest here. Can lead to some interesting choices. You can move your cavalry around here, keep some cavalry here, some mounted raiders, blah blah blah. Main engagement takes place here. Main engagement is very well balanced. Bit of forest for one opponent, where he can use which he can use to hide his archers. You've also got a tiny little bit of forest. But that's about it. You have one side which is completely forested, where you can hold up some of your troops. You have enough space. Let's see where it ends. So you have enough space to deploy your entire army in the forest if you so choose to, and then you can try and attack from here. That's an option. Of course, your opponent can also decide to just completely start in the forest, or you guys can take the just the Nemesis route and fight in a mainly pretty balanced central field. So I really like this map. This is a fun map. It looks good. Lots of trees, provides an interesting dynamic, and yeah, this Gaul gets a 7 on 10. Stay tuned for the other 2 maps. Right, this is Hispania north-south, 0 on 10. Nothing more needs to be said. You start off with a massive hill advantage. Well, you as in the player in the south. So if you're playing north-south, the defender gets a massive hill advantage for no reason, and still gets a downhill advantage as you go on. No need to waste more of my breath on this map. Utterly disgraceful map when played north-south. Let's see if east-west can turn it around. East-west in Hispania doesn't really provide much of an upgrade, although it is vastly better than north-south. You still start off with a pretty clear hill advantage. You can just choose to deploy your entire army on this side on this hill, and then get a clear downhill charge onto your enemy, But for the most part, it's a bit more balanced than the north-south, but still avoid this map like the plague. 0 on 10 would not recommend again. Stay tuned for the last map. Let's hope it's much better than this. This is Roma north-south. I kind of really like this map. This is a fun map. Both of you start with an equal disadvantage, as in both of you start on either side of a hill. You have to move up. It's reminds me of Carthage from Rome 2, which is also a fun map. So you don't have any line of sight of your opponent. Oh, this is a cool map. This is a really cool map. Neither you nor your opponent has any line of sight against each other, since you both are on the other side of the hill. Now, the hill doesn't cover the entirety of the map, so you can have cavalry over there as scouts. That's an option. These sides of the forest is also, well, the forest just hugs the border, so there's no real point in trying to deploy cavalry somewhere here. There's no real purpose to that. So yeah, one option that you can use in this map is to maybe bring one of those Germanic raiders. Now that they have Parthian shot, they can actually be pretty decent. Of course, Germanic raiders have good spotting, so you can deploy one of them here since they have guerrilla deployment. One of those mounted javelin units. They have guerrilla deployment. They can be hidden in this shrub, and then you will have a massive advantage over your opponent in that you have a hidden unit who can actually see his army, whereas he wouldn't have that sort of luxury. And based on that, you can time your main charge of your infantry and your main body accordingly. But the question is, do you really want him to take the advantage of the hill? The hill does provide some pretty nice steep downhill charges. Can definitely lead to excess casualties if some shock cavalry come charging down the hill. So kind of it resembles who needs to take that hill first, and I haven't tested this yet, so based on that it could turn out to be a pretty unbalanced map, because if one person deploys closer to the hill than the other, then this map is just shit. But from the looks of things, it looks like a pretty promising map, north-south. Let's see east-west. Right, we are on the final segment of this video. We are in Roma east-west. Roma east-west looks like a much more, well, it could potentially be more balanced than Roma north-south. It's a bit plainer. It could most likely won't be as fun as Roma north-south. I have high hopes for Roma north-south. I think that's going to be a very nice map to play in. This doesn't have as many forests. Well, it has, forests are closer to either army. Here you can see some forests, but they only cover one side of the battlefield. The other side is not covered at all. The main engagement will most likely just happen in this side, because unlike Pyrenees, which on the face of it looks like a nice map, it doesn't slope. You know, there's no gradient like this. It's a very flat map except for this hill. So in that sense, it looks like it's going to be a balanced, nice map with a little interesting dynamic here in the forest, very similar to Gaul east-west. So I think among the 4 maps, we have 2 maps that are very nice in Roma and Gaul. We have one in the African coast, which is just about whatever, and we have one that is absolutely terrible. So all in all, I think the maps in the last Roman are pretty decent, and I'm fairly impressed. You know, these are all very safe maps made by CA, but nonetheless, they're pretty nice. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more. Peace.